gain consciousness, it wasn't real quick.
The Matrix is everything. It is all around.
The aliens were like, come on.
Our DNA was split, dude,
Yeah,
from
bro.
the fucking Anunnaki,
By
man.
the process of elimination, you might determine that we are probably being visited.
Well, you know, maybe some of them did really have some kind of experience or saw something, and
The aliens are like telepathic. I don't even believe this.
From saying extraterrestrials are related to UFOs.
You could potentially come to the same conclusion. It is the veil that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
It's good, fellas.
Yo, what's up, man?
Not much.
What's up, buddy? Thanks for having me again.
Of course. Glad to have both of you here. This will be a fun one.
Yeah.
Dragons are kind of one of those interesting things where a lot of people pass them off as like, oh, it's just myth and stuff. But one of the biggest kind of questions I've always had around it is why is it like listed in every single culture, big culture that's been around for a very long time? Mayans, Aztecs, what's it called? China, India,
European.
Europe, exactly.
I've actually got a pretty good list. So you got China, Native Americans, Germanic tribes, Greeks, South American Nazcans, Persians, Scandinavians / Vikings, Babylonians, tribes in West Africa, Egypt, Egyptians, Romans, ancient
sure.
India, Japan, and English cultures. Like
Yeah,
they're
for
all
Yeah.
over the place.
Everywhere.
So before Dog, I'm gonna let you kind of drive this one, but I would, before we really get into it, kind of want to get both of your opinions on like what do you think they are? Why do you think they have them in that? I guess Chris, you go first. Like, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. It's just one of those things where they kind of popped up everywhere. I was kind of surprised they've never found any cave paintings or anything like that of them. So it was like at some point they just pop up, and as soon as they pop up, they're everywhere in everyone's culture.
Well, so we do in that terms, like we do have cave paintings of birds, I'm sure. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if like scale wise, like maybe they weren't thinking about scale, but I mean, I've got to imagine there's cave paintings with birds being depicted larger than humans in the cave painting itself. And that's kind of, I'll hold off on that thought, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is that it's,
Yeah.
they might have looked more like birds than actual dragons.
Yeah.
Jim, you?
Yeah. So not necessarily paintings of dragons, but there are paintings and artwork of other dinosaurs, which is an interesting tangent that we can go down as well.
Love to.
Whether or not carbon dating is as accurate as we believe it is.
Yeah.
Because carbon seems to have a breakdown rate. Because the way radioactive carbon dating works, right, is they shoot radio waves into the carbon, and carbon deteriorates at a certain rate, and however much carbon is still in whatever they're scanning determines how old it is, how long it's been dead.
Well,
So-
and also, I'm pretty sure carbon dating is a general, and it's like plus or minus 5 to 10,000 years, from my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the same thing. It's kind of they're starting to find a lot of mistakes in how accurate the carbon dating actually is.
Yeah. Well, you also have cases too that, diamonds have carbon deposits in them. And diamonds, natural diamonds, are potentially billions of years old. They're very, very old.
Hmm.
There's still carbon in them that hasn't decayed entirely. So perhaps there are certain circumstances that if they're in certain materials or certain processes, that the decay rate is way off from what we believe it is.
What kind of like modern archaeology?
Yes, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is that potentially humans and dinosaurs did exist at one point in time together,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's just
for
an
the,
interesting angle to look at it.
until recently, we didn't think that that we were coexisting with the woolly mammoth, and they're now finding like femurs from woolly mammoth with
Right.
A, arrowheads pierced into the bones
Right.
themselves, and
Right.
B, sawed in half with only like you can't get a certain leveled plane of a cut without a tool. So it's obvious that like it didn't snap or anything, right? And so I could really see what where you're getting at with that.
Mhm.
So, Dog, kick us off. Where do you want to start off with this?
So the overall question is: are they real, or were they real, or not? Are they just myth and legend, or is there some validity to dragons actually being a certain thing?
Yeah.
An interesting thing to point out with whether or not things that are believed to be extinct and then found that they weren't was with the dodo, right?
Hmm.
They believed it died out long before humans, and they ended up finding fossils and other preservations of dodos that were in the same time frame of humans. And then other extinct animals, like
Thylacines.
they pulled up some kind of fish. I can't remember what kind of fish it was, but it was believed to have gone extinct. I think at least 50 million years ago, and then
Wow.
somebody caught one,
Well,
and
what
then they
about
caught another, and another near Madagascar is where it was caught. But
well, and also what about the Thylacine that I think was actually, or I don't know if that one's confirmed yet, but I know you're going to bring up something by Forrest Galante, and he. Sorry, thrown off by this comment.
Chris, go.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure he's going to hop back in. He probably just got muted or pulled himself out accidentally. It happened earlier, but the Thylacine. You know what I'm talking about? The Tasmanian tiger. Did
Oh
you
yes, yes.
So that's another one that I think they've had numerous spottings about that, but nothing ever actually confirmed by science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there he is. He's back.
My bad, bro.
Yes.
You're good, bro. Don't worry. But Chris, just to fill you in, we were talking about the extinct animals like the dodo, and then also the Thylacine. I don't know if you've looked into that at all.
No.
The Tasmanian tiger. It's pretty
Oh
wild.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah. To be clear with the dodo too, I'm not saying that it's not extinct, but
Yeah.
what was being brought forth like scientifically was that the dodo didn't live with humans, and then it was proved that it actually did.
Yeah.
And with this, along the lines with dragons, there's just they're in so many different cultures, and I looked up the first reference that we found, and it was in ancient Sumer. Was this myth?
Not surprised.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's when we started writing, I guess, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
and dragons and
Which is telling. It's telling that like the first recognized civilization, right, as in terms of modern archaeology, the first civilization recorded is saying that there was some sort of a dragon like that.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty telling to me.
yeah, and I'll say I'm gonna be bouncing around because I've been absorbing a lot of information on this topic, and but I guess to really kick it off, the most compelling argument for me on, well, if they are real, why don't we find any evidence of them? Why don't we find any skeletons, any fossilizations? Well, to me, one of the biggest answers to that question, I think what's his last name? Forrest
Galante.
Galante.
Yeah,
Forrest
Galante.
he put it in pretty good
So-
terms on Joe Rogan.
Pull it up. Before you play it, though, I just want to state that what we were talking about with extinct animals, that's why I started recently following his actual podcast, and I've been watching his show on YouTube for a while on his channel.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of what he does normal biologist stuff, but a lot of what interest that I have in his work is, like, he's doing similar things that Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson are doing, where he's trying to take serious rumors and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
just unexplained species and tracking them down. And if they have like validity, he'll go search those areas and really put in the work to try to find. And look, it's another pointer to what we talk about with archaeology and history, that things are always changing. So
Yep.
like the whole
Yep.
trust the science and trust the institution, in my opinion, is always bullshit, because like at the end of the day, we're always finding out new things, and the real scientists and heroes in these different institutions are the ones that are willing to ask the questions and not just take things at face value. So
Yep, it goes back to one of those things where eventually it's going to circle back and we're going to realize that a lot of the theories from the old times are going to end up being wrong or off by a lot.
yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of the audacity that we may believe that we know all the answers.
Yeah.
Now. Like we were talking about carbon dating, potential issues in that, and even natural disaster theories like the Younger Dryas, and like
For
and
sure.
even the extinction of the dinosaurs. Like
For sure.
a lot of these things have evolved fairly recently. Even the word dinosaur didn't
Well,
exist until 1849. Like,
And I'm still under the belief that dinosaurs are still here. We've got gators, crocodiles,
Yep.
birds,
sharks.
lizards. They're still here. The big ones, sure, they probably, a lot of them died off, and probably from something similar to what happened if you follow the Younger Dryas theory, and if you kind of buy into that, you could argue that maybe something like that. Comets hit all the time, throughout the full span of the Earth's existence. So
Just an ice age in general would be absolutely disastrous to giant lizards, for sure. They're cold-blooded.
Yep.
But anyway, Forrest's point here with Joe Rogan back a couple years ago is probably one of the most compelling, arguments
mhm.
on this. So we'll listen to this real quick.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So you like these kind of far out there ideas. How do you like this idea? There's a group of people that say that dragons were real, and I'll explain. So around the same time period, so to speak, and I'm not one of these people, so I'm probably going to get the details wrong
like
a little
Matthew
bit.
McConaughey movie right
Yeah,
now.
seriously. But so around the same time period in China, South America, Africa, all these different Rome, all these places, images depicted people fighting dragons, right? And every dragon was slightly different, but it was all a giant scaly animal that could fly. So when you break that down, you think about the fact that large birds had a hard time being fossilized because their bones are so porous, right? So because they have like hollowish bones, they break down very easily and they don't fossilize. So the group that says this, basically they're saying the evidence is the reason there's no fossils of dragons is because they had bird bones and they were actually very delicate animals. But a handful of these small population of these giant flying lizards existed and basically encompassed all these different countries where they all depicted fighting dragons in their own way, and they were all killed off by knights or whatever it is, and then didn't fossilize.
What?
So it's like the science is saying that if there were
I love his reaction. But yeah, that to me is super compelling. Not only the fact that if they were real and they were able to take flight, that their bones would be hollow.
Yeah.
You also have the fact that the ability for things to fossilize
Yeah.
is extremely unique and extremely rare. I mean, the bird that dies in the backyard doesn't fossilize. Like, not unless it meets like the perfect standards. And a lot of that has to do with huge natural disasters, like with considering like mudslides, being entombed, tar pits, shit like that. Like it's a very rare occurrence for something to be fossilized. So I think it's a bit bold to say, well, if they were real, we should be able to find bones or remains. I
And,
don't believe that for a second.
I want
For
to
sure.
interject. I want to interject here for a second, and a lot of people use that argument similarly, like what you're talking about with the bones and whatnot. But they also say, well, we would find remains, or there would be some evidence. So I'm going to pull this up right now. I think this is uh, evidence enough. I mean, look at this thing, right? You know, you've got this is a legitimate dragon. Now, does it fly in the sky? No, but it's jumping from tree to tree. You know,
Wow.
and like I think this is pure evidence. If you subscribe to evolution, why would this not evolve? So if you kill off all the different subspecies and whatnot, you're still left with something small like this that's adapted to survive in this way. And I mean, like, come on, man, you're gonna try to tell me that doesn't look like a dragon? I mean,
That's crazy.
it's even got horns. Like, you know, is it breathing fire? No, but like again, I've always used the
That.
depiction.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've always used the depiction of fire in relation to dragons as symbolism. And
Destruction.
when you look at this, I'm thinking of you know, Game of Thrones, any type of dragon, Lord of the Rings. Like, it looks like that. It's got the bat-shaped wings,
Yeah.
and I think they just evolved into different species. That's really where my belief is at right now.
Yeah. I think that photo in particular is edited a little bit, but um
Sure. I mean, I don't know. What do you mean by edited
well, I think the wings were added.
on that one?
Yeah, on that particular. If you actually pull it back up,
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to find that real
oh,
quick.
did you close it?
Keep,
Oh,
yeah,
well,
keep talking. I'll pull it up.
well, I was gonna add something about the fire, which not only can it be, you know, a depiction of destruction. It's like the ultimate symbol of destruction. Even though arguably water is more
Oh,
destructive.
you're correct. That one was edited.
Yeah, I thought so.
But this one I don't think is, and I'm going to pull this one out. It's probably a better representation of it. But keep talking.
I think the notion of an animal potentially breathing fire, I will grant that it sounds like it would just be preposterous. But I'm not so sure about that, because you have animals that have the ability to secrete acid.
Right.
You have animals that utilize bioluminescence, which is fucking crazy shit. I mean, who's to say that something couldn't breathe fire? Because you don't need a spark to start a fire. A specific mix of chemicals would ignite a fire.
Well, and also, like what I was talking about, the symbolism. Okay, so if let's just put the tinfoil hat on for a second. If there's a big ass flying lizard like this that can spit acid like a or venom like a cobra does, and it hits someone that's next to a fire and they fall over, what do you think is going to happen? Like, the fire is going to spill everywhere. It's going to
Right.
ignite, you know.
Could be.
So
I think you're right, though. A lot of it has to do with symbolism, probably.
It certainly could. Certainly could. I've got quite a few depictions of some of these dragons. So, like, I've got. I might have to switch my screen. 1 second. Entire screen. No, not entire screen. Okay, so this is like this is a
Chinese dragon, right?
dragon. Here you've got a Japanese style, which is fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like a
crazy.
very good traditional tattoo idea.
Yeah, no kidding. Scandinavian. Oh wait, I have it somewhere else. This is more of a Greek one. This is one of the Greek gods was said to have rode a chariot pulled by dragons. This I believe is Greek and or Roman. I think it's Greek though, an ancient Greek.
Well, that looks like it's made out of stones, like on the floor.
Yeah, I think it's like tile. Yeah.
Yeah, so cobblestone is what it looks like to me. I would say that's probably Greek,
Yeah, and then here's the
Scandinavian. it looks like.
Scandinavian
Oh wow.
looking one. But a lot of them were depicted more of as like serpents. This is the incident with Saint George, which I will climb into here in a little bit. But a lot of them, at least starting out, and very heavily in Chinese lore, are more of water serpents, more of like snakish. So it's interesting the evolution of the four legs and being able to stand up tall, and even the flight is it kind of evolved with more Western stories. And what I could find with that is a lot of that depiction and a lot of that evolution. We could be talking about different species, which is a possibility. But a lot of the depictions of Western culture dragons being more of a destruction force was sort of propelled by the church. So with the story of with George here, that he became a saint later on, but there was a village that apparently was being, basically held hostage by a dragon, and they had to sacrifice their livestock to it, under threat that the dragon would destroy the village. Eventually, the livestock couldn't keep up with the demands of the dragon. They then started sacrificing and offering children and other things. And eventually, the king's daughter drawed the straw to be the next sacrificial lamb. So she was staked over by the water where the dragon would come out of, and this passerby knight George he stumbled across her, and she tried to get him to leave. He stayed, charged the dragon, apparently pierced him with his lance, and then dragged the dragon back while still alive, and offered to slay the dragon if everyone in the village would convert to Christianity.
Which
Oh wow.
Already I get red flags from stories like that. Just because it's just so easy for people to make up tales back in that day and
Of course.
age.
A lot of symbolism, a lot of that kind of stuff. But my kind of point is that I think the heavily destructive nature compared to, Eastern culture, especially Chinese, but also Japanese, how they're more spiritual, they're more of like a good omen and highly respected in power and all that kind of stuff. In Western culture, they seem to be depicted as evil, like like a grand depiction of evil, and even the horns on the head, you could kind of see that they were making it look like a goat head, kind of implying Satan.
And I mean, again, like that's definitely not edited, right?
True.
And
It's a bearded dragon.
it is, and it I think it really draws to depictions that we think of when you think about dragons. One thing that you were talking about just now, Jim, is the like demon thing, and or also just the influence of Christianity. So like Gothic churches in Christianity depict gargoyles on top of their buildings.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I wanted to hit this as well.
Chris, what are your thoughts so far?
It's pretty much the stories are so they're spread around the world to every culture to the point where it's kind of hard not to think that they had to have come from somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, the gargoyle angle is very interesting.
Oh shit.
Let's see.
Yeah.
What you got?
So
Yep.
I got some images here. I mean, that's a dragon. Let's be real. But it also mixes with the demon thing.
Yes.
And you know, there's a whole other side of the tinfoil hat industry that talks about how like dinosaurs might not even be real. I don't subscribe to that bullshit at all. I don't know if you guys do. I mean, but there are actual
No, bro.
there are actual like retards out there that think that dinosaurs didn't exist. I think we just have a misconstrued idea of what they looked like. But I mean,
Right.
out of every culture, look at that. I mean, dude, these are dragons. But it's like
Yep.
what I find interesting, and I'm gonna try not to diverge it too much, the topic, but like
That looks like a fucking xenomorph right there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
that's pretty funny. Like when I was listening to that documentary that you sent me, Jim, when they started talking about gargoyles, they're like it was almost a mix of a demon and a dragon.
And the dragon, yeah.
And like, why would a Christian church use gargoyles almost as like a visual protection over a church? It just
Right.
really weird time. I'm not sure that I could speak on the history of that, but okay, that's just a straight up dragon right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But also, look at the one to the left of it. That to me looks like a fucking eagle, but it's a gargoyle. So like that kind of goes back to my bird theory.
Yeah, and you know, even Native American cultures with the bird theory, they had the great thunderbird, and
Wait, but that's not even a theory. I thought that Thunderbird was real.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, it might be.
I thought
But
that
the symbolism to them, they were said to bring thunder, and a lot of times I think they would come from
that's a good one.
from a place like the storm would make them fly from where they are, and it would make it seem like they are actually bringing a storm.
How come when I look up Chimera, it's okay? I should probably add like that's Greek, right? Chimera.
Do what? Oh,
The Greek Chimera. Shit. When I look it up, it's coming up with a goat, a snake, and a lion. I don't know my history on this, so I won't be able to speak to it.
I'm trying to remember what you're talking about here. I think I saw something about that today, matter of fact. It was like it was a combination of different species. It's sort of like a griffin, but not quite.
No, I've always considered I feel like I know what you're talking about, Justin. I just can't put a name or a word to the name. So it's conceivable that Eastern culture could have dug up dinosaur fossils and extrapolated what they imagined to be evidence of dragons. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Could be. The only thing with that is from what I understand, there wasn't any like fully discovered like remains
Hmm.
at those times, right? Like that they weren't being discovered until more recent to our timeline now. So the theory that they found fossilized bones and they were like, oh, that's a dragon. It's I don't think that has a whole lot of weight just because there's no evidence that they were finding complete fossilizations of like a T-Rex or anything like that.
Yeah. Roman, we were talking about that before. We think fire is more of a symbolism,
Yeah.
more than a physical.
Could be. But like I said, it's not entirely out of the realm. I mean, there's crazy things in nature.
Yeah, and I find it interesting too. If we're talking about the different symbolisms, like how the large like water serpents that they talk about, and there have been things that in the Amazon or sightings rather of people seeing 100-foot plus snakes. Even today, from a guy that I would actually trust who spent a lot of time. I always forget his name. He's the guy that's always on Rogan. You guys know who I'm talking about? He's always,
I need a little more.
Chris, have you listened to those Amazon ones with the anacondas?
It's the dude that built he built like a retreat in the Amazon. Yeah. I've heard about him.
So I forget his name. But he's talking about like finding anacondas like where you couldn't wrap your arms around it, and he's a 6 foot tall dude.
Yep.
So it also begs the question to me that like, okay, I think there's two different aspects of these stories of dragons that maybe they're just referring to really, really, really large reptiles and or birds.
That's the thing. I think that's where a lot of it lies, is between the truth and symbolism and reptiles that might have already existed. Just stories get created and people talk, and I think legends are kind of made from that. So I think the truth kind of lies somewhere in there.
And also, I mean, I'm sure like when you growing up at like in middle school, like we would play a telephone game,
Yep.
and look at how that turned out, right?
Yep.
Like I think we're dealing, especially with, I think it could cover like architecture and history, but also this stuff. But I think there's a serious level of telephone game being played. Like that's pretty much what history is, right?
I think a lot of that telephone game type stuff applies to pretty much everything.
Yeah, it's just interesting to think about how like and size could be kind of misconstrued, right? Because maybe someone saw something that was 30 feet long, maybe 50 feet long,
Right.
or like and shit, a 20-foot bird would be terrifying,
Right.
So and that gets over exaggerated. Someone whispers into someone else's ear. And then that gets passed down through the family that our great grandfather fought off, or like that night you're talking about, jousted a dragon, but in reality it was a bird twice the size or 3 times the size of a horse, right? That's kind of how I'm trying to break this down logically, and I think that's really a lot of what we're seeing, and with cultures like the Aztecs and the Mayans. It's not written history; it's word of mouth history, and you bend things to fit your narrative essentially for your religion, right? And so and even Christianity, which is more of a written history, but still, like we know things are. That's how the history operates, right? And I just think that's important to think about when you're talking about like situations like this with creatures. Now, in terms of like dinosaurs and dragons, like Loch Ness Monster, I know we're not on doing that one, but who knows? The Loch Ness Monster could just be a water dragon for all we know.
Yes.
Right.
So that is kind of where I was just about to pull something up. But you bring up the Loch Ness Monster, and a lot of these origins, and a lot of different cultures, a lot of dragons are water based. Especially in Japanese and Chinese cultures, they're usually protecting some kind of springs, or or considered to be a guardian of some sort. And a lot of depictions, including like the Norse depictions, they're more of serpents than they were of flying winged beasts. Could that be like the Loch Ness monster, like a Mosasaurus type deal, like a I'm trying to think of the other names, but there was a lot of, we actually do have
The one with the-
fossilization.
The one with the long neck and the flap and the flippers,
Yes.
Right.
I forget what it's called.
Me
But
too.
yeah,
I
and
think
there
it
were
was
a bunch.
paleo something.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of those dinosaurs that supposedly are where gators evolved from. So,
That's what I always attributed that story to. The long neck, old dinosaur species.
yeah, and it's again, we grow up reading these dinosaur books because and that's also another interesting, like more psychology based topic. But like, why are you so fascinated with these with dinosaurs and whatnot as a kid? Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the Cladastus, that thing looks like, yeah,
That's
yeah,
supposed to be what Nessie is.
yeah, Loch
Right.
Ness. But look, more than I would say, out of all these like images, more than half of these look like crocodiles or alligators, just
Right.
in
Yeah.
a different form. And
But I mean, if you were to encounter something like this, and you're not going to call it the Loch Ness monster, they could be just calling these dragons.
yeah, that's
You know,
also
I mean,
fair.
it's very serpent-like. Especially God, you talk about a dragon looking.
Well, okay,
I mean, really, any of these.
if you look at the Nothosaurus, or
Which one?
top left Nothosaurus. Yeah, right. Yeah, that one. What does that look like to you? Because to me, that looks like a Komodo dragon.
Looks exactly like a Komodo dragon.
I mean, and yeah, it's
That's
like
kind of crazy.
it is, right? That looks like an aquatic living Komodo dragon.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some of these species were actually on point with, but apparently a T-Rex actually looked closer to a chicken, from what I understand, and those little T-Rex arms are actually the points of the bone where the wings would spread out, but we don't ever find the
Absolutely great point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've also heard that theory that maybe the little useless dinky arms that we have facing that way
Yeah, they were wings.
actually kind of look like hang on, let me pull this up. They kind of look like an ostrich if you flip the wings around. An ostrich doesn't use that to fly, but they still have massive wings.
And ostriches and emus are fucking assholes.
Bro,
So
big time.
yeah, like I watch a lot of like farming and like animal videos of people like homesteading and stuff. Every time someone has an emu or an ostrich or anything along that line, they are fucking dicks. They're coming up to them and biting them and stuff like that. Like that has to be a level of aggression genetically passed down, correct?
Bro, when I lived in Texas, a friend of the family, they had an emu farm. So we got to be around them a little bit. They're like big fucking bird dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're dicks, dude.
They're crazy looking.
If that is that an emu skeleton? Please tell me.
That's an ostrich skeleton.
Okay, I was like, if you're pulling up a T-Rex right now, I'm like, I was about to get pissed.
I mean, bro, look at.
I mean, dude, they're what? I mean, that look. Okay,
Look at that. If
I wish I knew more
that's
about
that's
dinosaurs.
the main bone for the wing, right?
Right.
If you accidentally flip that the other way,
Right. It's a little.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
The little
mean-
tard arms.
Dude, what about like even raptors, which would be about this size, right? Like
T-Rex,
velociraptors and
Yeti.
shit.
Right.
Yeah,
What if they actually had wings and they were actually longer wings because they actually have longer arms than the fucking
well, yeah,
T-Rex?
and if I'm remembering correctly, a bat wing has little claws at the end, right? That they can grab
Yep.
shit with.
Yep.
So how do we know that that's not what T-Rex had either? You know,
Yeah,
and-
yeah, you're right.
maybe
The emus have claws just like the raptors too. Big ass
No
curved
shit.
claws.
No shit. Yeah, it's really interesting. And let's be fucking honest. And Chris, you'd probably be able to speak on this better than us. But like, if an emu was standing 2 feet tall, I mean, what's gonna stop that thing from trying to pick us up off the ground? You
Oh,
know?
bro, you're done. You're done. You're done.
Yeah, dude, it's wild stuff, man. Also, I think this one might sound funny, but there's a reason why people say gator tastes like chicken.
Right? I never thought of that.
Yeah, like there's got to be a genetic connection between the muscle that you're eating, right? Like, so it's just I don't know. I think all of this stuff is going to get like, kind of what you're talking about, Chris, earlier on this stream and the other one, that like the more time that goes on, the more we're gonna look back on this 200 years and be like, oh God, we were idiots back then.
Yeah. Yeah. The more we figure out, the more we learn, the more technology gets better. We're going to start digging through some of these older theories, and
Yeah.
a lot of them, we're going to start debunking a lot of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at us 200 years ago. We were just figuring out electricity and pipes and stuff, and we're already looking at ourselves like, wow, these guys were stupid.
Right.
So,
Yep.
and it's part. I forget what the actual scientific term is, but how like the exponential growth of technology, and so like in 2 years that equates to 4 years, which equates to 8 years as you go back in time. You know,
Yep, yep.
with the progression of what what's possible ever since like at least since the computer was made. But you know, I think it's just very fascinating as to what I think there's a lot of connections we're not seeing right now, especially
Right.
with biology.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's hard to discount. I mean, I don't subscribe to one thing or the other, but I think it's not outside of the realm that dragons were real and lived alongside humans, and potentially even still could be real, because there are still remote parts of the world that I don't know.
The flying thing though,
Especially if they're aquatic.
Yeah, okay.
Especially if they're
Aquatic, I can 100% agree with you on that. But in terms of just your traditional thought of what a dragon looks like and is, the flying lizard, I mean, that's pretty like there's no way it's walking around now. But in terms of what you're saying, what's his name? David Ho? No, there's that fucking artist that goes on to Joe Rogan every now and then.
David Chow.
David Cho.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes.
And he was talking about that fucking wild story of him getting lost in the Congo at like
Bro.
20.
Yeah.
I was sweating during that story, but like it's wild. Like I think it was Rolling Stone put out an article about like sightings of of the what's that one dinosaur with the fucking scales on the back, the armored scales? Stegosaurus. I think they're talking about like seeing a Stegosaurus in the Congo, and it's super remote. And like,
Cambodia. It's in Cambodia.
Well, but he went to the Congo for it. So,
are you talking about the depiction on the? It's like a carving.
No, I'm talking about actual sightings from humans saying that they've seen it and it lives there in the jungle. Chris, do you know what I'm talking about on this one?
Not the specific story, but I mean stuff like that. I tend to believe the jungle, like Congo, deep unexplored areas, is pretty much like the ocean. There's areas that nobody's ever really touched, you know. So
Well-
stuff could exist out there that who knows.
Oh shit, that's wild. That's actually super interesting.
What's that doing there?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
What's that?
exactly. And if they didn't have recorded history, why do they know what it looks like?
Tell me that's not a fucking stegosaurus
That's a
with meat
stegosaurus.
on the bones. You didn't figure that out
That's
by
crazy.
looking at a pile of bones.
Bro.
You've
Where is
seen
this?
one in real life if you're gonna make that.
Wait, where is this?
Cambodia.
Yo, that's fucking crazy. And that's another dense rainforest, Cambodia. So Chris, I actually I agree 100% on like what like you don't know what's there. Part of the crazy story, one of the crazy parts of the story I was talking about with David Cho is that he got when he was lost, he got found by the pygmy. Yeah, that's incredible.
That's
He got-
crazy.
He got found by the pygmy in the Congo, the pygmy people, and he eventually, after they rejuvenated him, he asked like, hey, you know, I actually came out here looking for this, and they go, oh yeah, we've seen it. It's down this path and down there, but all you have to do is go through this thick part of the jungle. Then you have to go through the swamps, but don't let any don't let any of the leeches stay on you because you're gonna die because they carry bacteria. Also, there's like the parasite that if you piss in the water, it'll swim up your you know what I'm talking about. And then yeah, and so like so he said he got to the swamp and was like, all right, I got to turn around. There's no way I'm gonna be able to do it. Yeah, but it's a part of the Congo that's so remote that like no part of the modern world goes to. You wouldn't be able to see it from above because of how dense the forest is. So I don't know.
Sounds like a perfect place to hide to me.
Exactly. I'm not saying I believe that it's there and walking around, but like, yeah, if there was a small group of them still alive, and they're just like they've adapted and evolved to know not to wander past a certain area, like.
Right.
Who knows? Who knows if they're like and they're herbivores? Like apparently this
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So
I mean, think of like rhinos and you know other. I mean, they're mammals. I don't know if this is you know an actual stegosaurus or if it's just like a cousin to rhinoceros or something like that.
it's not the one that has the spikes on its back, but it's like a turtle shell. It's like a giant turtle. That's
Oh, the ankylosaurus.
I think that's what it is.
That used to be my favorite dinosaur. I shit you not. Had the big ass fucking club at the back.
Bro, I was always Velociraptor. Fucking
Yep.
love those.
Yep.
But yeah, man, this stuff's it's interesting. I think this is like, even though we kind of got on a tangent about dinosaurs, I think this is like one. It goes hand in hand when you're
It
talking
definitely
about,
goes. It definitely goes hand in hand. It's kind of silly to believe in, you know, see that dinosaurs were a real thing and then kind of laugh at the idea of dragons being real. Because I mean, it's the fucking same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, probably. I think it looked like that one. I forget exactly what it was. Maybe I could. Actually, let me look it up real quick. You guys chat about something.
Yeah, man. I kind of want to talk a little bit about China and their depictions on dragons.
China.
How there were a whole lot. Yeah, China. How they were a whole lot more peaceful. Like they weren't great depictions of destruction like other cultures had. What's the tale?
Okay, so before we move on, let's just watch this one. I got it pulled up here. Oh shit.
Let's see if I can pull it up so I don't get it wrong.
Okay. Share screen, because dude, this one's wild to me. I don't know if we're gonna watch the whole thing, but
I'm gonna train hop. I'm gonna hitchhike. Vice gave me like one of the first Vice shows was Thumbs Up. Gavin McInnes, Shane Smith, those guys I used to
I've been writing and drawing.
That's what I found out about you.
Really?
Yeah, I found out about you from two places. One from Bourdain, but two from a video that I watched of you going to the Congo.
It's very quiet, Damien.
Oh,
That was the first thing I ever saw of you. I think that's like. Then I talked to Bourdain about you, and he was like, "You got to talk to this guy. You got to meet him." And when I saw your show, I was like, "Look at this dude. This is crazy. He's looking for a fucking brontosaurus in the middle of the Congo."
In
Brontosaurus.
1994, I was living in Israel in a farm called Ramat HaKovesh, and it was a kibbutz. And to live on the kibbutz, you have to work. And I was the illegal immigrant there. So I have no money. So I'm making enough working on the farm just to live on the farm. And at this point, I'm 18 years old. I've been hitchhiking since I was 15, and I've seen the whole world. I've hitchhiked through Europe. I've hitchhiked through the US back and forth. So I'm working illegally in a casino, illegally. It's the heart of darkness. I got to fucking find this thing. I got to go there. Like I was.
How old were you at the time?
I was
when
18.
You decided.
So I really just wanted to get the dinosaur correct. There's brontosaurus. I don't know what that looks like, Jim. If you could pull that up.
I believe that's a long neck.
I think you're correct on that. But you know, it for whoever's watching that is interested, that's a wild story. Just look up David Cho dinosaur.
Yeah.
That story is fucking insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. All his podcast appearances have been nuts.
Mhm. Yeah,
Dude
the
is
one where he came in with his face painted red.
Yeah, bro.
What the hell?
Yeah, you're right. It's the long neck, huh?
Boom. That's a big boy.
It is, but like, even still, the Congo's got trees probably 3 times, 4
Yeah,
times the
you
size
talk
of
about
that.
a perfect spot for him.
Right. Yep.
So sorry, didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
But what were you about to bring up?
So I was going to bring up the tale of the Yellow Emperor in China.
What was his name?
Well, he was referred to as the Yellow Emperor.
So you didn't make that name up for him?
No. That's that's the name they got right there.
Bro.
I do not know how to pronounce his actual name.
Shit.
I'm Filipino. I have rights to say that.
See, right here. Here was his actual name.
I'm just gonna keep calling him Old Yeller. I think that's a better.
For sure. Okay, so Old Yeller was a very prominent military man, and he had commoner origins, but through military valor and exploits, he ended up getting to the point to where he was in line to be the next emperor. Well, he hit a snag because of his common origins, and he could not. He wasn't going to be able to due to his bloodline.
Yeah.
So he then claimed that he was the son of a dragon, and I believe he's actually responsible for the Great Wall as well.
Well, and he also, from what I remember from that documentary, like he would you couldn't refer to, you couldn't name anything after a dragon, something along those lines. Like
You couldn't show their likeness, anything like that, without authorized
Yeah.
permission, or you'd be punished by death.
without SAG-AFTRA coming after you or anything. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it was something along those lines that like he was named the Dragon King.
Yes.
if I'm
Yeah,
correct.
basically, yeah. Yeah, so the dragon was a symbol of power and authority. So especially in his case, but it's a different depiction of dragons than what we're used to.
Yeah, it's an interesting difference compared to the rest of the world, where it's destruction and mayhem, and then with them it's power and respect, regalness and respect.
Yes, yeah, and they have different colored dragons, or have different representations, like water dragons, or dragons that depict blue ones represent water, and green ones represent the forests and stuff like that.
Right.
Even Japanese too. I was listening to a bunch of like mythical tales of Japanese dragons, and only one of the stories that I heard that the dragon was malicious and had to be fought. The other dragons were protectors and even protected humans, and also natural natural resources and like springs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It again, I just find it really interesting that their overall depiction of dragon behavior was entirely different than what we find on the other end of the continent, basically. Yeah.
But it's still interesting to me, the fact, like, all of these like you're saying, like, vastly different, right? It's like all these different cultures, the old ancient cultures, they all have something about this that it's just, and then plus that wild piece of masonry that you showed depicts a dinosaur. Like, part of me thinks there's something to go on that, right?
Yeah. They
Yeah, I definitely.
very well could have been real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't think it's far fetched. Like, I don't blame people. And to be clear, I'm not convinced one way or the other. I'm completely indifferent and just enjoying the conversation and the speculation on this.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have any proof or any evidence, or I'm also not convinced. But I can completely understand those that just see this as a depiction for storytelling, for
Mhm.
representation of whatever it might be. But also with China, what's interesting is the dragon is a part of their calendar. All of the other animals on their calendar are real animals.
Hmm.
They don't have mythical creatures all over that calendar. They only
No.
have the dragon, which is considered to be a mythical creature. Now, if they're all real creatures, then that would suggest that the dragons were in fact real.
Yeah, and I want to loop it back to those images we showed of lizards. Like, there are still lizards with wings. Can they fly? No, but like, it's a little bit too telling. And I think there's something to really be looked at in that sense. And that's a really good point about how dragons, or the Chinese calendar.
Yeah.
I think there's something more. There's more. I think there's more evidence that we just like haven't found yet.
I also kind of want to point out that the longer we've been, around, well, I'll take it a different angle. Up until recently, it has been kind of commonly discussed that dragons were real. Even in an encyclopedia from the 1901, if I'm remembering correctly, an encyclopedia stated that dragons were real. It wasn't until a couple years later that it was revised that they are mythical creatures of legend. So there was a good portion of the population that did believe that dragons were actually real creatures. They were real things. They weren't just story devices. They were legitimate animals.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely something to it when there's that many stories all over the world, and I think it circles back to the idea of a lot of these more outlandish stories that people kind of laugh at today. I think in time are going to be proven to have a lot of truth to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the technology. We're talking about the technology of carbon dating and stuff. And go on, Jen. Look, if you want to say something, go on.
Oh yeah. also, if we're talking about symbolism and everything else too, on what these dragons represent, another explanation that's thrown out there. Now, this one you might need your tinfoil hat on. So this is a bit more conspiracy and ties into other things. So.
I overrid you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I wanted the loud one. Anyway,
I fucking love that.
you love that one so much.
It's wild.
So some of the heavy alien conspiracies, they kind of use dragons as ancient sightings of flying crafts. So like the fires depicting the exhaust from the engines. They come bringing things. They're shiny.
Well, and Japanese and Chinese cultures, dragons are mystical beings that can go between dimensions and whatnot.
Correct. They don't even have wings.
Yeah.
They're more of like.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, there's people that actually do subscribe to. The dragons are more of like the explanation of alien craft.
Yeah. That's a fucking wild one. I don't think I've ever played around with
You
that.
haven't heard that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So like I said, like the fire represents the exhaust, great machines and the smoke that might be coming from it. Or it could be ancient civilizations,
Yeah, for sure.
Other humans that were more advanced before an ice age or whatever. But even the word dragon isn't very old either. There was even in the Bible. Oh,
Really?
we really didn't touch much on the Bible. It's referred to a lot in the Old Testament. Dragons are talked about a good bit, and before it was translated to incorporate dragons, there was one story about a dragon that they called Leviathan.
I did hear that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So there's just so many different instances where dragons are brought up and these stories are passed on and told. And man, it's hard not to put any stock in the validity of some of these.
Well, yeah, I mean it's another one. Like it's I think it runs parallel with the flood. If we're talking strictly the Bible, it runs parallel with the idea of the flood, and multiple books have not just the Bible, but multiple religious books include a story about a great flood, and that connects back to what's it called, the Younger Dryas theory, and I think dragons are kind of in that same vein of thought, right? That like you've got all these different stories being told through different cultures, and at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of a at least humoring the idea, right? You don't have to subscribe to it, but you have to humor it, I think, at some point.
There's something there. To what degree, who knows? But every civilization across the world isn't going to have stories about it without there being something there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just on my list of ones that I could find, there's like 14 different cultures around the world that have instances of dragons, and there's probably many more that weren't listed in all these regions that I was talking. But jeez, it's hard to just dismiss, man. It's very intriguing.
It is, and that's why this is such a fun topic. And we see dragons in so many of our fiction novels and video games, exactly. And I think it's very easy when you're playing or reading a fiction story to just write it off as fiction, but I mean, who are we to say whether or not? I mean, we weren't. Yeah, hundreds of years. Yeah,
Stories came from somewhere.
exactly. Um, so, Jim, is there anything else you wanted to cover on this topic?
I think
kind
we
of-
pretty much hit everything that really drew my attention on the topic. I mean, the biggest thing that stands out to me is that if they were real and they were able to fly, they simply just wouldn't fossilize.
For
And if
sure.
we hunted them like a lot of the stories tell, like knights slaying dragons and shit, we wouldn't have the bones.
For sure.
They'd be gone. They'd be disintegrated. I think it's a strong possibility, and if they were real, it's a damn. Well, I would say it's a damn shame that they were killed out, but maybe that's something we don't want flying around.
Well, and I don't know if either of you guys watch, but I mean, House of the Dragon's about to come out on Sunday.
Yeah, perfect timing.
I mean, honestly, man, I've got fucking Drogon from Game of Thrones on that thumbnail.
Yeah.
It's just it regardless of whether or not you subscribe to even the possibility, I think they're fun to speculate about, right? Mystical creatures in general. This would be a fun one to do more on in terms of this.
Who's a moron?
I mean, you, Chris. I'm not. I'm the host of the show, so.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, don't talk about yourself like that.
But I mean, maybe we should do a chupacabra one or something someday.
Bro, chupacabra.
or
on,
Bigfoot,
bro.
or Bigfoot, man.
Oh God.
But your
That's
Mexican descent would know all about the
Chupacabra, vato.
Hey, bro.
Yeah.
There's some crazy chupacabra stories, man.
I'm sure you know him, Chris.
I will say, Daimyo, that's what I love about your channel and what we're doing here.
Mhm.
And for anybody who might be their first time watching, we just like to talk about interesting shit, man.
Well, look, and we're the first ones to laugh at people for like flat Earth, that type of shit, So it's
Right.
like anything goes on this one, like on this channel. It's like any topic that people are talking about. One that I'm interested in is giants lately. Like I think it's really like there is some kind of like depictions in history of giants and whatnot. I've recently discovered the Y-Files channel, and before I was kind of always like against it, but me and Chris were kind of laughing.
More of an X-Files guy.
Well, he's more in line with like how we view things. Like he's skeptical. He just puts out really good content with crazy ass topics. But at the end of the day, I always appreciate chatting about this stuff. Dog, you've been here since the beginning. Chris, I'm glad to have you kind of on board now.
Bro, I appreciate it, man. I enjoy myself.
Yeah, it's fucking fun talking about these things, especially with people that can be open-minded but skeptical at the same time and actually have a logical conversation about it, and they're not just like, oh, the whole time. So
You gotta be able to talk about it, bro. You gotta be able to talk about it without being shamed, you know what I mean, or ridiculed.
Exactly. Now next week, before we wrap it up completely, next week we're going to be doing Anunnaki. Going to be a really big topic in that sense. A lot of stuff to I think present. I'm gonna try to cover. We're gonna have to split this one up, I think, into multiple like detailed ones. I think so. The Anunnaki, the Book of Gilgamesh. If I'm saying that correct, like that already is its own topic, and I want to really cover the Sumerians because they're the ones that kind of did this whole thing, right?
Yeah, I think it all kind of stems from there. Yeah.
And then
It's gonna get wild, bro. It's gonna get wild.
That's what I'm saying. I kind of want to start that. I want to do like an Anunnaki #1 type of style stream, and then we can like break it up and do a whole Book of Gilgamesh, and then also green tablet. I keep saying green, emerald tablets. And
Yeah,
so
it is a type of green.
Yeah. but yeah, that's going to be next week, guys. Whoever's still stuck around, and we'll have another guest on. I think Steezo for life. Hopefully, this will be not even hopefully. I think this is going to be a really fun, just kind of conversation because the big one. It's one of the big alien stories, and I'm shocked that we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I'm fairly new to the whole concept of the Anunnaki, but honestly, overall though, I'd like to learn more about ancient Sumer. Period. I don't know hardly anything about it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. This is such a fucking broad topic that like we should all honestly do an episode on the ancient Sumerians. And
Right.
I think
It's such an interesting topic. You have to show it the respect it deserves. You know what I mean? There's so much there.
Yeah. Like a one-off, like couple hour podcast isn't gonna like really cover everything we can, but I'm excited to jump in on it.
Sure.
But yeah, welcome to Aliens Conspiracy, I guess, right? All right.
Nice.
Thank you, gentlemen. This was a fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course, always. I'm excited for next week, and I will see everyone later.
All right. Later, guys.
Drop a like, guys. We'll see you next week.
Peace.